welcome all of you. And as you come on in, today we're going to be working with author Patricia Toht from Northern Illinois, and we will begin soon. So let a couple more people come in.
Sorry about that. My own kid came in calling hello.
So again, folks, as folks begin coming in, we're talking Pick a Pumpkin. Illinois is the #1 pumpkin producing state, and we're going to be talking with an author about pumpkins and all things fall, Halloween, holiday-ish. So we'll wait just a couple more minutes as folks come in before we begin. And it's a beautiful day outside here in central Illinois. And Patty, you're up north, the Chicago suburbs. What's it like up there for you today?
It is gorgeous. I think this weekend is going to be the weekend to go to the pumpkin patch.
And I did see our friends from Altamont Lutheran, Mrs. Zumwalt's class is there. If you guys can use the Q&A, why don't you tell us what's going on down in south central Illinois, southeastern, kind of north central south. They're south of Champaign, but they are north of Mount Vernon, so they're in that area. Folks, if you do have questions, you can use the question and answer section. We would appreciate that, and we appreciate your questions. So we usually give people till 3 minutes after, so we'll wait just a couple more minutes.
Sounds great. The leaves are turning around Chicago. I don't know if they're turning down in Southern Illinois, but they're already turning up here.
You know, we got a frost on Sunday into Monday, and so things are starting to turn a little bit down here as well. So, but with that, it is 1:03, and I think the fourth graders. We have a bright, sunny day in Altamont. Well, I think it's probably always bright and sunny in Mrs. Zumwalt's class, so that's good to know. But fourth graders down in Altamont in Effingham County, we're glad you're with us. Other folks, if you want to use the Q&A section, feel free to do so. But we'll go ahead and begin. And today we're talking with Illinois author, Patricia Toht, and she is the author of Pick a Pumpkin. And welcome, Patty. We're really excited to see you. Why don't you start off by telling us just a little bit about your background, your current occupation, in addition to being an Illinois author, and some of those other book-related things you've done.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised outside of Chicago in a little town called Glen Ellen. Now I live in Wheaton, which is just one more town west. And I have a husband who's a Wheaton native, and I have 4 kids who are all Illinois kids. So we're a strong Illinois family. My first venture into books was actually through my children's bookstore. So I opened a children's bookstore in 1988, which seems so long ago, and I had it for 7 years. The most important thing to me that came out of the bookstore was actually my marriage, because my husband was an illustrator and walked into the store and then asked me out for coffee, and we became friends. And 2 years later, we got married, and we just celebrated our 30th anniversary.
Well, that's pretty cool. That is a cool story. So, but from bookstores, what did you do next?
From bookstores, I actually did, when my 4th child was born, the week that we closed the bookstore, we actually had a lot of competition with Borders, Barnes & Nobles, and Super Crown, and we just couldn't quite sustain our business. And so that next week, my 4th was born, and I stayed home for a little while. And I did my first venture into writing during then. I didn't get a lot published, but it was a learning time for me. And then in 2010, we moved overseas to England, and I was not allowed to work over there. I did not have a work permit. And so that was the time that I really focused on my writing. And I did my first sales over there. And then in the end of 2013, we came back, and I started working as a middle school librarian in St. Charles, and I've continued to write.
That's very, very interesting. And especially for our students, this idea that you were practicing your writing. For a book like Pick a Pumpkin or any of your books, this is not a one and done thing. So can you share that with what you would share with your students at the library, but what teachers could share too about the importance of revisions?
Yes, so there's two different ends to revision. One is the revisions you do before you even send it to a publisher, because you want it to be the best that it's going to be. And so I have a few friends that I work with that are poets, and we get together about once a month, and we'll show each other our new work, and we'll make comments on it about what we like, what we don't like, and then we go back to the drawing board and work some more. So I probably did maybe 10 versions of Pick a Pumpkin before I sent it to the publisher. And then once I sent it to the publisher, it was 375 words long, so not very long. And they decided they liked it. I sent it with another book. They liked both books. But when I got a letter back to them, I love to show this to kids, because my little manuscript that was 375 words long, this is what I got back from my publisher. So this is the email, 1 page, 2 pages of the email talking about it. Then she talks about the pacing of the book and where all the pages will go and some changes. So 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of that. Then on top of that, 2 more pages of extra notes. So thousands of words about what I needed to do to fix the book. And so some of the fixes are words that they wanted me to take care of, and some of them were changes that they wanted me to do for the illustrator. I do have one funny story about the words. So because my publisher lives in, they're English, that's where I lived when I sold the book, there are words that are just different. So in fact, when they sent me a recent email, they said something about, well, now the gourds are in the allotment. It's time to talk about marketing. Well, the gourds meaning any gourds, including pumpkins. The allotment is what they call their gardens that grow vegetables. So there's really funny things, but the one that they said to me, you've got to deal with this. I had put a little part in there when they're at the farm, and I said, stop for cider, sweet for sipping, sugared donuts, great for dipping. That's one of the favorite things that I do when I go to the pumpkin farm is I get some hot cider and I get some donuts and I dip them and I eat them. And they wrote back and they said, cider? I said, yes, like apple juice. And they said, oh, over here, cider is like beer. It has alcohol in it. And I thought, no, we don't want kids to be drinking alcohol. So I had to take that all out. And so now I think I have stopped for sips of spicy punch. And then something about apples, something sweet to crunch. I have to go back and look because I always remember the original way I wrote it. And I actually have to go back and read my own book so I remember what I put in there.
Well, I think the interesting, the words, that's really cool, those kind of things. But the part that we started with there was for students, it's okay to rewrite your work. It's okay to stop and think about this, not hurry up and be finished. And I think, again, the reason that your book was not only a big seller here in the United States, but also in England and abroad, you did get something special in the mail today. You want to show that too?
I did. So because they're in England, again, when I get mail like this is cool. So I get a label that says it's from England. It says it's to me in the United States. It has a postmark that's Royal Mail and a little airmail sign on there. And what it is over in the UK or the United Kingdom, which England is a part of, they're making a paperback version. So a soft cover version, not here yet. So it's not in the United States yet, but they always send me when they make a new book, they send copies to me. So I got some copies. It was yesterday that it came.
Which is pretty exciting because typically a book will start in hardcover and then it goes to soft cover and it has a longer shelf life. So that's really good that your work is out there and living on. Softcover books, and students, you might know this, they're a little bit more affordable as well, but they also can be, you see a lot of hardcover books in libraries because they're sturdier, they hold up a little bit better for people reading and those kind of things. So yeah, that's really exciting. But for the students, again, The idea that you need to be able to hone your words and think about, it's not a race. It's not a race. And when you talked about that earlier, you moved to England and you started writing. Did your first book get published?
Oh my gosh, you guys, I do have, oh, here, I can show you this. So this big, I have 4 of these, and these are all books that never got published. So I've written all of these and I couldn't find a publisher that liked them well enough to publish it. They liked them. They all said the writing was nice, but they want to have a book that they think will sell lots and lots and lots of copies. And they might have thought, well, that's nice. And some people might like to read it, but not enough that they wanted to spend the money to publish it. It doesn't mean that I didn't write it well. I really like my writing, and I spend a lot of time on words because I tend to write things more in poetry than I do in regular writing. I have to spend a lot of time on just the right words because you want to make sure that every word counts. I can't have a lot of extra words when I'm writing poetry because it'll throw off the rhythm or it might not rhyme. And so I take a lot of time and I read my stuff out loud, which is kind of fun. My family likes to hear it and I like to feel it in my mouth when I'm reading it. And that will tell me whether it's something pleasant to read out loud. And I like my books to be read out loud.
And I think that's important too. So you're reading your books to your family, but also this your friend group. You've got a group of friends that talk about that. With, you said you have 4 children and this book has parents involved and that kind of stuff. And you've written all these books. Where do you get the idea? You know, sometimes just sitting down looking at a blank sheet of paper, where do you get the ideas?
I am inspired by my family. So Pick a Pumpkin, Pick a Pine Tree, Together with You is a book that will come out next year. Those my family. They're things that we did together that we really enjoyed. I have other stories that I've written. I've got another one that's, you wouldn't believe this, but there was a period of time in the post office where children got sent by mail from one place to another. And it was fascinating. I saw a picture that had a postman and he had a bag on, and inspired by pictures a lot. For some reason, when I see a photograph of something really interesting, I thought, I want to know the story behind that. So I started doing some digging and I made a pretend story. It doesn't always have to be a real story that you write about. It doesn't always have to be a pretend story. It could be one or the other. And I made a pretend story about that. And so that one's out there. I don't know if somebody will like it enough to publish it, but it was really fun to write. All about a little girl that gets shipped across the country to her best friend.
That's really cool. And given the post office is in the mail a lot now, or in the news a lot these days,
Right.
that's kind of a unique tie into that as well. And we were speaking before the students and our participants joined us. We're lucky she got the book because a lot of mail has been halted between overseas postage, that kind of stuff, just because of what's going on. Now you do have you kind of have a built-in audience. I know you're a librarian at a school system. Any cool stories that have ever come from your setting at school? I'm sure that our teachers out there, they'd have to change some names, but they might have some cool stories of things that students have done.
Well, it's funny that I work in a middle school and you would think that picture books, middle schoolers don't read picture books. Our middle schoolers love picture books. And so lots of times I will go in the classroom and I'll read to them. Sometimes I make them act things out. So one of my books was called All Aboard the London Bus because I lived in London. I loved London. So I did poetry about London and I make them act out some of the poems. And I think my favorite one, I turned them into a bridge called Tower Bridge. It's a very fancy bridge. So I have 2 of them stand apart from each other. And as I go through, I put a crown on their head. I wrap them in all kinds of stuff. I play a little trumpet to them. And the middle schoolers think it's hysterical. You would think they'd be embarrassed. They love it. So I have a great time reading picture books out loud.
That's great. And so you're in charge of coming up with, as the author, you work with the words. They're your words.
Yes.
And then you turn it over to your publisher and you have an editor who helps bring the book together, but the editor works with an art designer and they pick an illustrator, and your illustrator for Pick a Pumpkin is an illustrator by the name of Jarvis. And why don't you tell us about your work and your interactions with your illustrator?
Sure. Jarvis, actually, he's done 2 of my books. He's going to be doing a 3rd one. So the one that's coming out next year will also be a Jarvis book. I love that he has one name. I wish I had just one name. He's so
Like
cool.
Cher and Madonna, yeah. So Sting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the great things, so I don't get to talk to the illustrator. The art director doesn't want me influencing what the illustrator does. That he wants them, the art director is a she for this company. She wants this illustrator to have his own imagination, look at things. I had to make a lot of changes to my text because the illustrator thought there was too much going on inside. Most of my words were about carving the pumpkin. And he wanted more variety of what to do. So I started out with him going to the pumpkin patch, and then they took the pumpkin home. And the art director said, can you have them go through the farm a little more? So I said, sure. So then I worked on some words going through the farm. At the end of the book, they wanted decorations. I didn't have decorations in my book, and they wanted the kids to get into costume. And I didn't have those either. So I had to go back and I had to rework my words so that it would fit. But the magical part of it is that sometimes when your illustrator uses their own imagination, they come up being so close to what you were thinking. So I wanted to show you a couple really cool things about Pick a Pumpkin. First, I'll show you a secret page in here. This was a secret message that Jarvis gave to me. So there's a page where they're in the farm. It's this page right here. And I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's Jarvis's Art Supplies and Patty's Bookstore. So he put us into the book, which is really fun. But a couple of the pages that he put illustrations on, I will show you pictures of my kids. So this is Justin and Kim. They're my older kids. I don't have a lot of pictures of them because at that point in time, we didn't have cell phones to take pictures. So I don't have that many. Ruth and Will are the younger ones. And by the time they came along, there's lots of pictures of Ruth and Will. So this particular scene where they're going through the farm and they've got a little boy there on the wagon. This is Will on a wagon. Then they get to a part where they're cleaning the pumpkin. See if I can find that one. This one right here. This person is cleaning the pumpkin. And my daughter, Ruth, was one of those kids that did not like dirty things. And Ruthie always cleaned her pumpkins. And so there's Ruth cleaning the pumpkin. And my favorite one of all, because who would think that a kid would do this? So when my kids would, well, oh, I got one more. No, there's actually 2 more. So this one, I don't know if you can see Will there. This is Will scooping guts out of his pumpkin. And I love the fact that they both have blue shirts on. I thought, what are the chances of that? And then the last one. So when we would carve pumpkins, we let the kids come up with a lot of creative ways of doing it and creative ideas. And Will one year decided that he wanted to carve his pumpkin upside down. So he cut out the bottom instead of cutting out the top to take the lid off. He cut out the bottom and then he carved his pumpkin. And let me get this. You gotta wait for it, guys. He put it on his head. You guys see Will Pumpkinhead? So Jarvis put a pumpkin head in the book without even knowing that Will had ever put a pumpkin on his head. So it's just so magic that he did those illustrations and they matched up with pictures of my own kids.
And so you've worked with Jarvis on 2 books and a 3rd book. Have you actually met the illustrator? Have you had any contact with him, or you're trying to keep the distance?
Never, never, never. So I have 3 different illustrators for my books. I have a total of 4 books out now and 3 books yet to come. And so two of the illustrators live in England, and I have never met them. We moved back by the time they were starting to work on the illustrations. So I've never met them. And even the one that lives in Illinois, I'm not in Illinois, but in the United States, Lorian too, I've never met her. You know, unless you have a reason to cross over, you're not going to meet. But we still together make the best work we can, and putting it together, the best words that I can do and the best pictures that the illustrator could do comes up with a great picture book.
And for our students out there, imagine somebody from in Southern Illinois shipping your pages to students in Chicago area to illustrate. How close would those be? I think one of the things that I like about this, and it's interesting that Jarvis is English, he is from England, but so much of what he captured really does work with what we do, especially here in not only all of the United States, but here in Illinois as well. The activities that we do and going to the pumpkin patch, I know those go with your words, but he had to figure out how that all works together. So.
He did have to do a little research, he said, because they don't do quite the same traditions over there. They're starting to do more. But I remember when we lived over there, not that many people carved pumpkins. It was kind of up and coming, but it wasn't something that a lot of people did. And even having pumpkins like for pumpkin pie or pumpkin bread, we used to come home for the summer to visit the family when we lived over there. And I used to come back with pumpkin in my suitcase because it was really hard to get pumpkin, and Libby's pumpkin, that's what I would pick up.
And again, Libby's made in Illinois, and Illinois pumpkins, we ship the same type of things. We actually did get a pumpkin shipped to our friends in Germany. We found some in July, so we got that before the mail stopped. But yeah, they don't have that over there. That's an Illinois thing, and it is if you haven't had pumpkin, it's an acquired taste. So they've come to acquire that taste, but they're interested in that. But again, they eat things a little different than we do as well. So for our classroom attendees out there, anybody have any questions, put those into the Q&A and we'll make sure we get to those. Tell us your name, your class, where you're from, and what part of the state you're from, if you could, please. But so Patricia, as you've continued with this, what would you say your typical day is writing something like this? How do you go about writing? I know you're in your office there at home, which kind of looks like it doubles as a spare bedroom as well.
It is a bedroom. I just work in a corner.
And so what would a typical, if you're going to write, what would it look like? How would you go about writing something?
Well, because I work in a library during the day, I do my writing at night. And so when I sit down at night, I have kind of a routine of getting ready. So next to I can actually show you this because I keep it here all the time. Next to me, I keep two books that are really important to me. So one is my thesaurus. A thesaurus, look how fat this is. A thesaurus takes a word that you might want to use like go. And you can look up that word and find some other great words. So things, instead of using go, you can say ran or galloped or hurried. There's so many different words, and I use that to try to pick out the exact word that I'm trying to convey. And then because I write poetry, there's something called a rhyming dictionary, where you can find different words that rhyme with the word you want to use. So let's say go again. It would have snow, but it also might have a big long word that you could use as well. So I use that. So I kind of get myself ready. I've got my computer going and I've got my resources. And then I have an idea file. I've got two different idea files. So one's on the computer and a lot of it are pictures or little snippets of stories. And then I've got an actual one that is a file folder. And sometimes I'll be driving down the road and I'll get an idea out of nowhere. And you always write your ideas down because you think, I'm going to remember this. This is such a great idea. I'm going to remember it tomorrow. And then you go tomorrow and you can't remember what that great idea was. So I get my ideas together and then I just start working. And at the very beginning, I just try to get it out. We call those sloppy copies. Sloppy copy is just, you want to put down everything you can think of. It doesn't have to be the best writing at all. It's kind of like doing a word cloud or brainstorming, whatever you want to call that. You try to get down as much as you can because you'll use pieces of that, but you're not going to use everything in the end, but it's great to just get it on paper. And then I just keep on working on it every night.
So to go along with this, I'm assuming that you were an avid reader as a child. Who were some of your favorite authors as you were growing up, and who do you read now?
I read nonstop now. So picture books, I probably take out maybe 20 picture books from the library every 2 weeks. that I can read, because I need to know what's out there. It helps me with the rhythm to go through picture books. One of my favorites right now, which I don't know if any of the kids who read picture books would have read it, it's called Swashby by the Sea. So Swashby and the Sea. And so Swashby is this guy who's really rough and rugged, and he lives by the sea. And then some new people move in, and he's not happy about having neighbors. And he keeps writing messages in the sand, but the sea keeps messing with the messages and erases some of the letters so that there's a new message that appears. And those messages end up bringing Swashby and his neighbors together. It's so clever. I love it. And then for novels right now, for the middle grade readers, I just read one called Chirp that I really like, about a girl who goes to visit her grandmother who has a cricket farm.
Yes. Yep.
Raises crickets. It's really, and this little girl is trying to figure out, she thinks there's a mystery of someone trying to do something to her grandma's crickets. And I really enjoyed that. It's Chirp by Kate Messner is the author on that one.
Yep, I just got that. It's in my pile. I can see it over there, but it's in my pile to read. A different type of farming and where it comes from. And speaking of that, for our students and our audience, Patricia Toht, she is one of our Illinois Read selections this year. The Illinois Reading Council picked 6 books in 6 different strands from birth to adult, and Pick a Pumpkin was named for the kindergarten through 2nd grade level. But as you talked about, even with your middle school students, it's a great book talking about pumpkins and what you do, even for older students and adults. Really takes you back to remembering what you did as a child, or how things work, or could give you some ideas. We'll see if any of our students end up with pumpkin heads. You can shoot us pictures of that as well if you do.
I would love to see pictures of pumpkin heads.
Yeah. What about as you were a child? What kind of things did you read? Who were your favorite authors or favorite books when you were growing up?
My favorite novel was actually Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. I got it for my 10th birthday, and I must have read it 20 times. I thought it was funny. I thought the story about Charlie getting the chocolate factory was so sweet. When I was younger, I read a lot of poetry. I had a couple poetry books that I got from my grandparents, but there was a book club called the Parents Book Club. And they would send books out to people, families that belonged. About every month, I think you got one book. And the books that I remember were from that book club. They're not being printed anymore, but I can still recite them by heart. I remember them so well. But my kids growing up, I would say some of their favorite authors, my older kids, Don and Audrey Wood, they did Quick as a Cricket was one of the ones that my kids really liked. My older kids, well, the next batch of kids, I'm trying to think of, Kevin Hankis, who's a Wisconsin author. He does one called Chrysanthemum, about a girl whose name is really special to her. Julius, the Bay of the World, Lily's Purple Purse.
Lily's Purple Plastic Purse. Yeah, my kids like that one too. One of my favorite pumpkin books, my oldest daughter, her birthday is right before Halloween, October 28th. So she has lots of pumpkin themed things, but Linda White's Too Many
Little
Pumpkins.
Old Lady Who's Not Afraid of Anything?
Oh, she's same author. Yep. But Too Many Pumpkins by Linda White. Love that book. So.
I didn't realize she had a second one. The Little Old Lady Who's Not Afraid of Everything. When I worked at the public library, we used to have the kids do the shake and the walking motions and everything. And that was really fun.
Well, with that, our time is drawing to a close. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, the book is Pick a Pumpkin by Patricia Toht, and she is an Illinois author. We're proud to have her as an Illinois author, but the pumpkin book taking England by storm as well as the United States. So.
And one more.
Okay.
Denmark as well.
Oh, there you go. That's a cool look too. At least you know what the words are supposed to mean.
That's right. I can't read it for real.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much to our students and staff for joining us, and also to our Illinois author of Pick a Pumpkin, Patty Toht. Thank you for joining us. Hey, folks, next month we're moving on. We'll be pumpkins all through October. Keep following our blog site and our Facebook site and activities. Next month, we're talking about Thanksgiving and cranberries. Our author will be Liesl Detlefson, and we're going on a field trip to a pork farm in Southern Illinois. With that,
Kevin, can I show them my new favorite pumpkin?
You show us your new favorite pumpkin. Yeah.
There it is, guys.
Get those.
Look at that awesome pumpkin.
That's right. The Buffy
I love
pumpkin.
it.
So,
Have fun at the pumpkin farm, you guys.
thank you so much. Thanks, Patty.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.